In this video, I'm taking a look at Laeral Silverhand's Explorer's Kit. As I said, in this one, we'll be taking a look at Laeral Silverhand's Explorer's Kit. As you can see, I have the previous boxes here as well, so we can make a comparison at the end of the video. But let's see, what is Laeral Silverhand's Explorer's Kit? It was released along with, if I remember correctly, Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, but this one is for the Forgotten Realms. So what do we have here? We have 11 dice, 2 d20s, which as you can see are quite big. Then we have 1d8, you can see, 4d6, 1d4, and 20 illustrated double-sided cards detailing Laeral's expert insights on key characters, locations, and lore from across the Forgotten Realms. Durable, felt-lined box that functions as 2 dice trays. Fold-out, double-sided map of the Sword Coast and the city of Waterdeep. It's 11 inches by 16 inches. And the MSRP is $24.95 USD. Let's open it. It's a bit hard to open, not really. It's like the previous one. So, again we have this blue box that can function as 2 dice trays. And let's take out the dice. Let's take out the cards and the maps. And let's check this out really quickly. So, this is really beautiful. It has... it says, "Together in harmony our stories are told," and it has a very beautiful artwork. And the sides have a very cool artwork as well. This is somewhat sturdy. I mean, it's not as sturdy as a wooden dice set, but as a wooden dice tray. Let's see in the second box the art. On the side it says "Lost Civilizations, Ancient Mysteries. The path to Faerun's wonders is endless and fraught with danger, but one you'll never walk alone. Laeral Silverhand. Wondrous creatures, boundless magic. Greatest heroes, foulest villains." Okay, now the boxes are fine. I mean, they're not as sturdy as wooden ones, but they can definitely work. I mean, it's a nice place to roll dice, so they don't fall from the table and into a grate, because this almost happened to me. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. Let's check out the dice first. So, let's see. As usual, we have 4d6, and I always consider it a good thing, because you pay an above average amount of money for a dice set, and at least having 4d6 so you can roll your characters is pretty good. Let's see. Let's open it and let me show you the dice now. So let's... ooh. Yeah, let me show you how they look in the sun. All of these, except for the d20, are regularly sized, so you can see the difference in size with the d20s. The color is pretty good. I like that it's light blue with a hint of silver, and the numbers are colored silver. And the d20s have the D and the ampersand which you can't see if I hold it because of the sun. So let me focus on a D20. Alright. What else do we have? As I said, we have 2 D20s. We have the D6. We have a D8, D12, D10, D4, and a percentile, which is nice. The D4 just strolled past the camera. So now let's move to the miscellany part of the box. Let's keep them up for later, and let's go to the cards. So they are two-sided cards. And let's begin with Icewind Dale. Okay, you're focusing, very nice. Like one of Icewind Dale's most famous residents, Drizzt, many who travel to the frigid north are outcasts in search of a place where they can make a new home for themselves. Some go to Icewind Dale determined to make their fortunes, lured by the promise of gold, gems, and magical remnants of lost Netheril. Others go seeking solitude, or to escape unfortunate pasts or laws in the cities of the south. Today, most residents of Ten Towns, the region's predominant settlements, dwell there because they were born in Icewind Dale. The people are mostly fishers, loggers, miners, hunters, trappers, farriers, and traders accustomed to the harsh climate, the slow pace, and the isolation. Like the hardy reindeer of the tundra, residents of Icewind Dale endure doing what's necessary to survive. Having read R.A. Salvatore's Icewind Dale trilogy, I can easily confirm that these 2 paragraphs are pretty much spot on. The Dale has a lot of dangers, both in creatures, people, and environment, but also it's intriguing for people to go there, either isolation or treasure. So, let's move on. This is Waterdeep, and let's see what it says for Waterdeep. Waterdeep is a grand experiment. All cultures and ideologies mix here, endlessly working and realigning to make the city their home. Walking Waterdeep's streets is like striding across the nations of Faerun. In a single day, you might encounter clothing, food, and works of art from 100 nations. Waterdeep is about expanding horizons and broadening experiences. To visit Waterdeep is to be forever changed by its people, their knowledge, stories, music, and hospitality. Waterdeep is far from a paradise, though. There are always sinister forces at work in the city, those jealous of our prosperity or who prioritize their own greed over their neighbors' needs. That is where my role as the city's open lord comes. Although I often take time to enjoy the city's simple pleasures, I work with many groups, the Harpers, the Lord's Alliance, the Emerald Enclave, and others, to keep informed of what's happening within, under, and around the city. Many threats I contend with directly. Others, though, call for an indirect touch. In such cases, I find myself in endless need of committed heroes willing to stand in defense for the City of Splendors. The point you have to get from these few paragraphs is that Waterdeep is an open city where you can encounter almost anything and any culture of the realms, but also that means there are other threats as well, as factions converge to profit from this mix, you could say. Also, I really like the part where it says there are threats also below the city. Yeah, what's happening within, under, and around the city. Because under Waterdeep there is the Under Mountain, This is Port Nyazaru. Okay. This is the city in Tomb of Annihilation. Port Nyazaru rises upon the wild shores of distant Chult, a colony of Amn that grew into a city like no other. I was there when Port Nyazaru was still merely an outpost, a fortification run by the Flaming Fist with the sole purpose of looting the jungle of its countless riches. The wood-panelled offices and gem-encrusted circlets of many Amnian nobles arose as products of this wanton pillaging. All that ended when the merchant princes of Chult proclaimed their independence from Amn, retook control of their home, and declared it as a sovereign nation of their own. Many feared a separation would bear a bloody price, but deals were made and treaties signed with only limited violence. Today, Port Nyazaru is a bustling cosmopolitan city, a gateway to Chult guarded by its people. Let's move, and this is... Ooh. I'm turning them around because I want to check out the full art from the other side, which is really beautiful. Neverwinter. Neverwinter has seen its fair share of misfortune over the last century. Everything from orc attacks to infernal corruption, from volcanic explosions to chasms swallowing up whole urban districts. Yet somehow the city has survived, emerging from the ashes to thrive and grow. Speaking as the open Lord of Waterdeep, I see Neverwinter as one of our two greatest partners, they in the north and Baldur's Gate to the south. Because of these cities' positions along the Sword Coast, they serve as protectors and allies in Waterdavian interests, contributing to the stability that we enjoy today. Because of this relationship, Neverwinter, Baldur's Gate and Waterdeep number among the most prosperous cities in Faerun. Our communities live in symbiosis, our differences paling in the face of our people's common needs for safety and prosperity. We depend on one another to grow and to survive fate's challenges. Let us seek to remember the strength we share, particularly in the face of short-sighted charlatanry and grasping tyrants. Moving on. This one is Candlekeep. And let me turn it around, because just look at that. Isn't this amazing? Look how beautiful it is. Yet a bit scary. It has some sort of darkness, as you can see. And I think most of them feature some darkness. But let's see what we're going to learn about the Candlekeep. Oh dear. Now that we're discussing the great library of Candlekeep, it reminds me that I have several books in need of returning before the first reader sends scowling monks to hound my steps. Among the greatest libraries in the realms, Candlekeep is a bastion of magical and mundane scholarship in all its myriad forms. Only true scholars are permitted access to the Citadel Library, a state Candlekeep's monks test by demanding a particular prize, a tome not already present in the library's vast collection. If you can barter your way inside, the burden of knowledge within bears upon visitors like a physical weight. Nearly any question one might think to ask has its answer in Candlekeep, but of greatest interest are the innumerable secrets that slip amid the stacks. Question wondrous and terrible few mortals ever thought to ask. Okay, I like it. It gives a lot of context and it gives a lot of inspiration. Because if you want to incorporate Candlekeep in a game, in a campaign, this pretty much is a whole act, because you have to gain access to Candlekeep, and you can do it the official way, which is giving a book to the library that isn't already in it. And as you can see, this is a big library. so it's not gonna be easy. But also it's a keep, so it's a citadel actually, so you can try to sneak in it, and all that this entails. But yeah, this is a really cool few sentences, and I'm very intrigued by it. But let's move on. Baldur's Gate, as expected. Let's see. That's beautiful. There's a lot of smoke coming from the city though. What could it be? Well, let's see. With its place at the center of travel and trade in the region, Baldur's Gate is critical to the stability of the Sword Coast. This makes the city's notorious corruption and numerous near collapses all the more unnerving. Somehow, though, the city finds a way to thrive despite the meddling of gods, devils, and criminal conspiracies. Such also makes Baldur's Gate a crucible of heroes, who regularly rise to face these endless waves of evil. Among such heroes are Minsc and his valorous hamster companion, Boo, two unlikely heroes who, along with their companions Delina, Shandy, Cridle, and Neris, have become reliable defenders of Baldur's Gate. 6 champions aligned against all the disparate evils that set their designs upon the city hardly seems like fair or sustainable odds though. Now more than ever, Baldur's Gate needs heroes, those who will defend the city that is and write the tale of the city yet to be. Interesting. So, it kinda makes sense that there is a lot of smoke coming from the city. Let's move on. Now, I think these are all NPCs, and I believe I should have started with this one, but I'm gonna read it now. Today's Faerun, our vast and varied world, is but the latest verse of a song sung through generations. Its choruses resound through the vaults of time, each a variation of people, wishes, mysteries, and myths we'll never know, yet that define everything we are. Those who listen long enough might hear the refrains of lost civilizations and forgotten magic, of wars between giants and dragons, of the wizards of Netheril, and of the high magic of the elves. They are echoes of verses long sung, but indelible parts of our ongoing song. To understand Faerun, train yourself to listen to the present and the past. Only fools deafen themselves to the song around them, the serenade of new wonders, the clangor of war and wars. Although I don't have the perspective to sing you Faerun's entire song, I'm happy to share a few of my favorite verses. Hopefully they'll help you distinguish a greater melody, so when it comes your time to sing, you'll better understand the harmony that's waited so long for your own voice. That's actually really beautiful. I like it. So let's now move to the NPCs. And the first one is Laeral Silverhand. Oh gods, I have to pronounce names. And I'm really good at that. I apologize beforehand, because I know I'm going to butcher some of the following names. Let's go. My name is Anamanue Laeral Silverhand. I was the 5th born of 7 sisters to the goddess Mystra. When my mother died, I was taken under the wing of the wizard Elminster, who taught me about the world and the weave of magic. Since then, I have ruled a kingdom, led adventurers on many quests, freed myself from the depths of evil, and known a love beyond death. Now I serve the city of Waterdeep. I retired from the world and thought my days of adventuring were over when the masked lords of Waterdeep called on me. They had ousted their corrupt open lord, Daguld Neverember, and asked me if I would serve as the new open lord of Waterdeep, in the hopes of bringing stability and honor back to the city. Knowing the strategic and symbolic importance of Waterdeep as a beacon of hope and a demonstration of what is possible for for the people of Faerun, I accepted. Waterdeep is the hub of the Sword Coast, a shining star of civilization and a grand experiment in coexistence. It is a place that cannot be allowed to fall to the evil and corruption. In the centuries that I have walked the lands of Toril, I have sought a place where all people could find rest. To this end, I've sworn to use my power to make sure that Waterdeep and their citizens remain safe. Let's move on. Okay, now we have the Harpers. The Harpers and their mission are dear to my heart. The organization dedicates itself to many noble things, but above all its members work to maintain the balance of magic in the world. To do this, the Harpers secretly keep checks on ambitious wizards, hold back the tides of extraplanar threats, and make sure that items of great power don't fall into the wrong hands. The magic that most of us see in the world is but the visible tip of the iceberg hidden from our eyes within the infinite vastness of the weave, the tapestry of magic that runs through our world. Only archmages and the wizards of fallen Netheril have experienced the full intoxicating majesty of the weave, but I know too well how its unbridled energy can corrupt the best of us. Heeding dire warnings from the elves of Myth, Draenor, Elminster, Aumar, and those such as myself who understand the disastrous potential of unchecked high magic, the Harpers have dedicated themselves to protecting the world from this power. So the Harpers are an organization that try to control magic not in a bad sense but in a good sense, because uncontrolled use of magic can be disastrous. Now let's move to the Zhentarim. I have seen the Zhentarim shift and change endlessly over the decades, consuming itself again and again, retching forth an even more bilious incarnation each time, manipulated by nefarious forces like the evil wizard Manshun or the foul gods Bane and Cyric. The Zhentarim often dance to whatever tune their mad leader pipes. Recently, though, the Black Network has shown signs that it could rewrite its history and free itself from the clutches of evil to build a new company of merchants and mercenaries open for business. I know the weakness of mortals all too well, though. While the Zhentarim have presented themselves as a group that wishes to join society and embrace a new future, I can't help but suspect that the hand of Manshun still manipulates the Zhentarim from the shadows. How long will it take before I can sit with a Zhentarim and not suspect treachery? I doubt even I will live long enough to see that day. So yes, Zhentarim are very shady. They mask themselves as mercenaries and merchants, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, let's move to Cults of the Dead 3. Who are they? We'll see. The Cults of the Dead 3 began as most cults do, their frightened members lured to depravity by confidence and hollow promises. In this case, the fanatics flocked to the intoxicating power of the fallen gods Bane, Baal, and Myrkul. The Cults of the Dead 3 predominantly flourish within the city of Baldur's Gate, and I see them as a test of the city's health. The cults raise their heads in proportion to the instability of the city and the corruptibility of its leaders. When Baldur's Gate experiences a time of plenty under the protection of a strong leader, the fanatics sink into their gutters to fester and plot. However, when the symbol of Baal appears in broad daylight and cultists openly preach fear and divisiveness into the streets, then it's a clear sign that the leadership of Baldur's Gate has grown weak. When the Cauldron of Hatred spills over to harm the public good, Baldur's Gate is in need of new heroes to defend the innocent and cleanse the city of evil once more. So we get some extra info on Baldur's Gate and one of the dangers that lurk in the city. Now let's go to Durnan. Look how cool he is! Ah, Durnan, a man of simple tastes and few words. I'm always refreshed when I meet someone who doesn't mince words with flattery, and to this effect, Durnan comes across like a cool breeze on a humid day. I mean, like I said, he's cool. Durnan's story is also the story of Waterdeep. It was Durnan who, with the help of that incorrigible rogue, Myrt, went into the Undermountain from which no one had ever returned, and emerged not just alive, but laden with gold and magical treasures. Using his newfound fortune, Durnan built an inn around Undermountain's entrance, and turned a death trap into a business, now known as the Yawning Portal. For the cost of a single coin, you can descend into the dungeon, Durnan's advice and rental equipment costing extra. If you return and still have a coin to pay your way up, you'll receive a hero's welcome. If you don't return, well, don't expect the tavern's regulars to come looking. Over time, traders and fortune seekers from up and down the Sword Coast settle around the Yawning Portal. The tavern became synonymous with possibility and prosperity, prospects that came to be shared by the city that grew around it, Waterdeep, the City of Splendors. Now, this is a very important NPC in the history of Waterdeep. He's really cool. That's the end point of both this and what I wanted to say. Let's move on. This is Grand Duke Alder Ravengard, and check out those pauldrons. I always admire those who put aside their comforts for the greater good. Alder Ravengard has no love of dealing with the conniving scum that flourishes in the high halls of Baldur's Gate. Yet he sacrificed a comfortable retirement as a former leader of the Flaming Fist mercenaries for a life in politics, all for the good of Baldur's Gate and its citizens. Alder is a warrior, used to life where direct action and immediate results define the difference between life and death. I can only imagine the frustration he must be experiencing dealing with the hand-wringing patriarchs and dawdling dukes that manipulate fortunes in Baldur's Gate. Without him, the city surely would have fallen even further into corruption that has plagued it since its founding as a freebooters' stop along the Kionthar River. Kionthar River? Maybe? Squabbling dandies aren't the only ones Alder must contend with. More serious threats, such as the Dead Three and their foul cultists, endlessly gnaw on the heart of the city, plotting dooms beyond the sane mind. Baldur's Gate is a powder keg, and who can say how long Alder Ravengard can keep it from igniting? Look how badass he is. Again, those pauldrons though. Let's move on. Ooh, here we have Halaster Blackcloak. And if this isn't a crazy wizard, then I don't know who it can be. Beyond depravity, beyond mental illnesses, Halaster Blackcloak, the Mad Mage, is a singular danger even among those who flaunt the laws of magic. His most famous creation, Undermountain, is a chaotic maze of death traps filled with his personal menagerie of monsters and half-finished arcane experiments. There, unmoored from reason and morals, he obsesses over meaningless audacity. Reluctantly, I let him and his creations fester, so long as they remain locked away within the twisted labyrinth. If any of his depravities leak into Waterdeep streets though, then we shall have more than words. That's badass. While Undermountain has a reputation for extraordinary danger, it's also famed for containing fabulous treasures, be they rarities from the depths of the Underdark or strange wonders collected by Halaster himself. Over the years, those with more ambition than sense have ventured into Undermountain in search of gold and glory. This deadly attraction has had a significant role in making Durnan's Inn, the Yawning Portal, and indeed all of Waterdeep what it is today. I doubt that even the Mad Mage's bizarre genius could ever have depicted that his dungeon's greatest side effect would be encouraging the rise of Waterdeep itself. I mean, he clearly has studied tourism sciences. Oh, Jarlaxle Benre. Benre, right, yeah. I like this guy a lot. Again, from reading The Legend of Drizzt, I know him, and he's really cool. Even when he was kinda evil, but not exactly evil, more like chaotic neutral. While Jarlaxle Benre selfishly serves his own hedonistic fancies, his formation of the Bregan Derthe, I hoped I would never have to pronounce it loudly, but I had to, has provided a place for drow outcasts of all stripes, himself included, to find sanctuary and purpose far from the awful conditions of dark elf society. While he's certainly a pompous dandy, frills and a dashing smile hide his most scandalous secret, that he actually has what might pass as a heart. This saving grace is why I don't immediately fire upon him whenever his ship sails into Waterdeep's harbor. I don't for a second underestimate Jarlaxle though. He's always scheming, with dozens of machinations in the works at any given time. Any dealings with him involve untangling his web of half-truths and lies to figure out what game he's playing. If he would just tell the truth up front, he might discover that I'm not always opposed to his schemes, and I rather enjoy the dash of originality he brings to a world all too often lacking in style. Not that I'd ever tell him that, mind you. Yeah, he's kinda cool, and he's always scheming. Now, let's move to Dagult Neverember. Many desire power with the intention of doing the right thing once they have it. Sadly, such dreams rarely come to fruition, as other factors all too often corrupt the purity of the idealist who sets out to change the world. This is what happened with Dagult Neverember when he became the Open Lord of Waterdeep. He was filled with confidence, even arrogance, though I believe he did initially care for the city. Over time, the rot of power and wealth turned Dagult's youthful idealism into the pettiness of a man who lives in lack. He dishonored Waterdeep and its people by trying to turn the city into a revenue stream for himself and his cronies. It took a considerable amount of time, but eventually things turned bad enough that Waterdeep's citizens demanded change, and the masked lords expelled Dagult from their ranks. Now Dagult has gone off to Neverwinter and is actually helping that city recover following the devastating eruption of Mount Hotenau? As I said, I don't know how to pronounce stuff. I only hope he continues his good work, as Neverwinter's people are far less forgiving than the residents of Waterdeep. Should he indulge his greed, Dagult is apt to find himself cast out again, this time on a pike to freeze at Neverwinter's edge. That greed is also the premise for Dragon Heist, the adventure set in Waterdeep, because this guy has amassed a huge chunk of money and people want to get it. Let's go to this guy, Drizzt Do'Urden. Look, I like the scimitars. My sister Alustriel enjoys a closer friendship with him than I, but I can say that Drizzt Do'Urden is one of those people who creates paths where none existed before. To be born into a culture, endure its relentless brainwashing, and somehow still find a way to break free is a testament to Drizzt's strength of character. Even when he left his home, the vicious city of Menzoberranzan, he wasn't escaping into an ideal world. Drizzt knew prejudice against the drow was rampant above ground. He knew the road would be hard. He knew he would have to fight to break the suspicions of the surface world, and he did it anyway. People like Drizzt are myth breakers, creating new realities from nothing, remaking the world's assumptions into what they and future generations deserve. Because of his actions, we now see more drow breaking free from the cultural trauma. At the time, Drizzt might have thought he blazed his path to the surface for himself alone. Only today we are beginning to realize what hopeful droves followed on his heels. Let's move on to Vajra Safar. I'm so good at pronouncing names. Vajra Safar has talent and is growing into her role as Blackstaff, Archmage of Waterdeep. While I still can't see the Blackstaff, the companion of my beloved departed husband Kelben, without distractingly dear memories flashing into mind, I'm coming to accept Vajra as a worthy wielder and able ally. While her magical skill is undeniable, I can't help but think of her as another of Kelben's students, one of this generation's worthiest magical minds, and the one luckiest to be guided by the Blackstaff and the dear soul it harbors. Vajra is committed to her post and the defense of Waterdeep, as she must be to face the number of threats that rise to test her, the defenses of her home, Blackstaff Tower, and the City of Splendors at large. Our city's greatest defenses and most ancient magics stand ready to heed her command, such as the titanic walking statues of Waterdeep. Yet all of Vajra's prospects' wisdom comes not with potential, but with experience. The Blackstaff and I will do all we can to guide the Archmage, but ultimately Vajra's fate will be in her own choosing, and the fortunes of the City of Splendors hang in the balance. Now, two left, and we have Myrt. Myrt. What can I say about Myrt? He's a scoundrel, a scallywag, and a rogue, but underneath it all, Myrt is a stalwart defender of good who has the heart of a hero. In this world of villains, having someone you can unconditionally trust is worth all the gold in Waterdeep. Even though Myrt has lived a magically extended life, it's still impressive how much he's accomplished. He has been a trader, a thief, and an adventurer during his early days, where he made several fortunes. Like many of us, though, he eventually found that the sparkle of jewels fade. When that happened, he retired from adventuring to search for a more meaningful existence and settled in Waterdeep. Don't get me wrong, though, Myrt did not lose a step in his legendary gadding about becoming one of the city's premier revelers and information brokers. It seems that no amount of self-reflection can entirely tidy up a character. But a keen eye for what other people value, be it a kind word or some other treasure, is what makes Myrt Myrt. I mean, it kinda reminds me of Stephen Fry. A bit, I don't know. So, the Xanathar. I have only had to deal with one Xanathar, the title of a procession of Beholder crime bosses who mastermind Waterdeep's most notorious thieves guild, on my watch as an open Lord of Waterdeep. As far as Beholders go, this one hasn't been exceedingly monstrous. Perhaps it is due to my dearth of experience dealing with megalomaniacs, underdark tyrants, and depraved wizards, but Beholders are fairly easy to contend with once you uncover their particular paranoia. That's so. The guild leader has attached itself to a fish named Silgar, which it lavishes affection on and derives a sense of security from. It's just one idiosyncrasy in an encyclopedia of strange beholder behaviors that leave me puzzled. Regardless, I have used this carp to my advantage and have worked with the Xanathar's lackeys to keep Silgar alive. It certainly wouldn't serve me to comment on rumors that I've secretly provided new Silgars when old ones perish. However, I will say that I've learned much of Delimbeer carp in recent years, particularly the sensitivity to temperature and how frustratingly long it takes to safely introduce them into new bowls. Yeah, definitely Laeral is getting new goldfish. I mean, that's not a carp. So, I think that's all. Oh no, it's not all. We have a map. Let's see. This side has a map of Waterdeep, which also can be found in the adventure Waterdeep Dragon Heist and in an even larger version, I believe. And this one is a map of the Sword Coast, which I think has a good size. If I had to choose between a map of Waterdeep and a map of the Sword Coast in this size, I would definitely choose a map of the Sword Coast. I don't know, it fits better to my eye, I think. And we can see that Port Nyazaru is this way. We can see Baldur's Gate. We can see we have just to follow this Waterdeep, and then there is Neverwinter, and we have 10 towns up here. If the camera focuses, yeah, this is 10 towns. We have Laskan, Silvery Moon, which is Laeral's sister lives, and Mithril Hall. I was looking for that one. Yeah, pretty detailed. It's a Mike Schley map. I'm a fan of those maps. What can I say? I just like them. So, I think that's all. So before we finish the video, let's compare this dice set with the rest. It kind of follows a pattern similar to Descent into Avernus dice and miscellany. The dice are different, but the contents are very similar. We have 2 dice trays, cards, maps. I don't mind it at all. I believe Wizards has made a lot of attempts to find a good content list for the dice sets, because they are kind of expensive, in my opinion. $25 isn't that cheap, if you ask me. But having to include various other stuff, even if it's just, someone could say it's just some paper, it's nice to have, especially if you want to run a campaign with that uses information of contained in these pieces of paper. For example, Descent into Avernus has some good information you can use. And this one has a map of the Sword Coast. I'm considering putting on my wall. And I think that's all. So I have to ask you to please subscribe to my channel and click the like button if you enjoyed this video. This turned out to be a long video. I wasn't expecting it to be so long, but I ended up reading all of the information found in the cards, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you find it helpful. So this is a product that you should get if you want some information on the Sword Coast and some NPCs in card form. I'm pretty sure you can find it online in wikis and stuff, but it's in card form. It has some cool art. If you enjoy that, you should get it. And if you want a map, and also you can buy this if you like a dice tray with beautiful back art and some really beautiful dice compared to other dice. I'm not gonna say which dice. These are really beautiful, and I mean it. I'm very happy with how these look. So I think that's all. And until next time, have fun!